on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, Spaz, thanks to the YWC Reality Check, here to talk to you about what it says over there, Tna Emergence 2024. Now, let's talk about a couple of things. Let's talk about the fact that we are heading into a loaded weekend of pay-per-views this coming weekend. So I'm recording this a little in advance. I'm recording this on the 25th, on Sunday, after I just sat through the slog that was AEW All In. Yes, there was one or two good matches, and that's about it. Let's talk about something better. So, that being said, much like most TNA pay-per-views, I'm going to be talking about it from a week out. If there's something that happens on this week's episode of Impact that gets added or subtracted or changed, obviously I'm not going to know about it. You guys are just going to have to allow it. So I've got what I've got up here right now on my Wikipedia. Finally found dark mode on Wikipedia. I didn't know why I haven't used that before, but it is what it is. We've got Emergence. We've got Bash in Berlin, we've got NXT No Mercy all happening this weekend. So you're getting 3 previews from me at some point. Don't know when and where I'm going to have Jake DeMarco with me, whether which ones are going to be solo. Obviously these ones are solo, or you wouldn't be seeing my pretty sexy face and the gimmick hat, oh yes. But yeah, Emergence is on Friday. More than one chance that you could get some interaction with No Mercy on Sunday, but let's take it at face value for now. On the kickoff, and I'm not going to lie, I don't really even know why, we've got Kushida versus Frankie Kazarian. Now, I like the fact that one of 2 guys in TNA right now, one's a face, one's a heel, sort of acting as the elder statesman, as the OGs of TNA, kind of walking around doing whatever they want. The heel version of that is Frankie Kazarian, and he's just basically named himself as the king of NXT, which is absolutely fine, because he's one of the OGs of TNA. Him and Eric Young, who's obviously the other one, were a tag team for one night before he decided to turn heel and do this whole, king of TNA, king of the asylum, type of gimmick, and he's going up against Kushida, who is a very fun mid-carder, and that's where he's at right now. I said the same thing about him in NXT as well, way back. Kushida's a lot of fun. I like the time splitter gimmick. Love a good reference to Back to the Future, etc. And what they did with that was fine. The last thing I remember Kushida being in, because I'm still getting into the groove of watching things week to week again, was the feud that he had with Jonathan Gresham, because Jonathan Gresham was doing like the evil octopus mask gimmick with the venom and all that kind of thing, and he came out all serious and painted up with all the Japanese graphics for that match, and now he's gone back to the thing. And for me to just brush this off as, okay, I like these guys, it's going to be a good match, seems like I'm tossing it off, but it's the kickoff, and I'm pretty damn sure Frankie Kazarian's going to win. We're going to get a good match out of these 2 guys. That's about it. I hate to say it like that, but it is what it is. The other one that's kind of the same way is Steve Maclin versus Eric Young. Now, Steve Maclin, not that long ago, being in the title picture, being in that 6-man eliminator match for the title that Nick Nemeth eventually won, it's a weird thing. Steve Maclin seems like a guy who's just on the outskirts of the world title picture at all times, but the rest of the time he's just random mad guy who's gonna feud with whoever he feels like being mad at. Currently, that's Eric Young, and Eric Young is doing the positive version of the Kazarian thing. He's the positive babyface elder statesman of TNA, and based on that, I think he's going to win. I think he's going to get an incredible response. He's got really evil music in his entrance. The entrance and the mask and all that kind of thing that Eric Young does. If you didn't know it, you would think he was a villain, a bad guy, a heel, or at least an intimidating presence, if nothing else. But then he takes the mask off and he's, carrying the banner for TNA. So, whereas I think Frankie Kazarian needs to uphold his King of TNA label, the Eric Young win here, and this one is on the main card, is just going to be a feel-good Eric Young win. Again, I like Steve Maclin, and he's on the fringe of the world title picture at all times. He has been the world champion very, very recently. He was the world champion for us over at Destiny as well. Yes, different hat than the gimmick hat. Destiny, check out off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. he's a fun guy to watch. He's a fun guy. He's basically wrestling's Punisher, and they haven't even shied away from the comparisons there. But when he's not doing something, it really feels like he's not doing something. So I don't know how to take the match. I really, really don't. Because it is a Friday show, it's a TNA Plus. I should say, I finally bit the bullet and got TNA Plus, so should be easier for me to watch week to week, and I've already got my pay-per-views taken care of for like the next year, so that's nice. The library on TNA Plus is friggin' ridiculous. I'm not here to advertise their stuff, but if you're a TNA fan, go get it. That's it is what it is. It is a what do you want to call it? A B show, a Friday night show. They're on the way to Bound for Glory. They talk week to week about being on the road to Bound for Glory. So it does have a B show feeling. There is no women's championship match on the card, I should say. We have a 6-woman tag, which is Jordynne Grace and Spitfire, obviously Danny Luna and Jody Threat, versus Ash by Elegance and the Militia, who are still the Knockouts tag team champions. Now, here's all the typical things that I've said 100 times before. Jordynne Grace is awesome. Ash by Elegance is awesome. The personal concierge is actually George Iceman, who's a really, really cool guy. I'm not going to say that many more times because I'm pretty sure I've beaten you guys over the head with it. Danny Luna and Jody Threat is an interesting team because they work as a tag team. I've seen Jody Threat a lot at Destiny. Yes, check it out for Spaz Phoenix Bucket List. It's fine. Danny Luna is also part of Subculture, but she's broken away from her faction to do this tag team with Jody Threat. The same is on the other side as well with the Militia, Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich. Alicia Edwards is a member of the System. We're going to talk about the System later, I promise you. But they've broken away and broken apart and whatever to be a tag team as well, which is odd and weird and whatever. So basically, you've taken a tag team feud, you've taken a singles feud, and you've put it into a 6-man tag feud. What was this booked by, AEW? No. It's much, much better. I mean, Jordynne Grace is going to go in there and kill everybody. It is what it is. But all of them are great. Like, Danny Luna and Jody Threat are a fun tag team. Jordynne Grace joining them for a night is great. I look at the Militia, and I look at the Militia the same way I look at the System in general. It's like all these people that were doing individual things are awesome. I don't know why they're a team. Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich, I don't know why they're a team. I don't know where the hell Killer Kelly is. I said this in the last preview, I think, but her and Masha Slamovich, the MK Ultra, whatever they were called, was a much more sensible team, and Ash by Elegance is playing the role perfectly. And I know by the time you guys listen to this, this week's episode of Impact will have already happened, but Ash by Elegance has challenged Jordynne Grace to a match by Elegance, and that's the stipulation of the match. I don't know what the hell that means. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure it's going to be something that works entirely in her favor. If they do some wild switch up where Ash by Elegance somehow fucks Jordynne Grace out of her Knockouts championship and Ash by Elegance walks into Emergence as the Knockouts champion, I mean, somebody's going to die, aren't they? Like, that's the simple part of it. It's going to be cool. I said this about NXT a little while ago. Where they had a random 6-person tag that was all thrown together. You've got a couple really decent characters that are all sorta, kinda doing their own thing. Masha Slamovich is awesome. Alicia Edwards is the only person in the System left with a belt, so that leaves her in a pretty interesting position. Jody Threat as a single is awesome. Danny Luna as a single or as part of Subculture is awesome. So you've got 6 people that are going in 6 different directions slammed into one match. So what you've really got is an exhibition of, hi, we're TNA, here's 6 of the coolest women we have on offer at the moment. And I think there's a place for that. I really, really do. It's pretty, I don't want to say inconsequential, but like title-wise, nobody's losing a title, nobody's gaining a title. Whatever the match that's going to happen this Thursday is, pretty sure Jordynne Grace is still going to have her title. Pretty sure, pretty sure the Militia is still going to have their titles, and none of them are on the line in this. You could do something way over the top at the last minute and announce that in this match all those titles are on the line, but not everybody likes when those convoluted stipulations come into play, so maybe they're playing it safe. It's an exhibition, they can build some story. What are they doing at Bound for Glory? That's the best. That's all I can do. Do I think the babyfaces are going to win? Probably. Do I think there's going to be a try and a fail with the system helping out Alicia Edwards and Masha Slamovich? Probably. Do I think Rosemary is probably going to go and do something weird with the personal concierge again? Yes, it's going to make me laugh. By the time you're listening to this, and I only know this because I read the spoilers, but by the time you're listening to this, NXT has already happened. Wendy Chu and Rosemary have got some kind of working relationship now on NXT because what's her name? Rosemary came out on NXT this past Tuesday. I don't know what it was like. I haven't watched it yet. We're doing a little bit of a time travel thing here. But I think Rosemary takes on Kalani Jordan, which I'm looking forward to. And by the time you're hearing my voice, I will have already watched. Let's bring all the spooky characters together. I'm sure maybe Wendy Chu gets involved in this as well, because there's a lot of crossover that's going to happen in this weekend. I'm pretty damn sure of it. Now, that was a 6-woman tag. Let's talk about an 8-man tag. And it's Joe Hendry, Mike Santana, the Hardys, taking on the system. And I'm tired of beating this into the ground. And they've added an extra member now with Johnny Dango Curtis. The system is still not my thing. It's not. Respectfully, it's not the Bloodline, where everybody on SmackDown rallies together to fight the Bloodline. It's not the Judgment Day, where everybody on Raw rallied together to fight the Judgment Day. It's not even Damage Control, where all the babyfaces rallied together to fight Damage Control. It's the Island of Misfit Toys. And I feel bad saying that because I've said that in the past. I don't know how many previews that we've done. I like Moose. I like Eddie Edwards. I like Dango. Brian Myers, I can take or leave, but he's not a bad wrestler. Alicia Edwards is grating on my nerves a little bit week to week. Individually, again, they can do great things. They don't work as a faction. And that's just my opinion. Other people like them. Other people like what they do. Other people like the fact that they've got sort of like this grab bag Island of Misfit Toys feeling about them, and that's what brought them together. I can see that from an outside point of view. It's not working for me. So the idea that so many either big wrestling names or people in the world title picture have to all gather together to fight the system is... I don't buy it. And that sucks because there's people in the match that I enjoy. Mike Santana is another one that was sort of bopping around in that world title picture when it was a 6-person eliminator, and then kind of fell out of it again, and just he's got this thing going with Moose now. I would much rather turn into this pay-per-view and see like a hardcore match between Mike Santana and Moose, or a New York street fight or something along those lines, because you get Mike Santana, who's a scrappy street fighter guy, and Moose, who's gigantic. And I first saw putting Channing Decker through a door at the Don Koloff at Destiny. Check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. They're not going to do much to Joe Hendry because 2 days later he's got a shot at Ethan Page in the NXT Championship. So what's that going to look like? And the Hardys are the Hardys. Jeff Hardy came back and then he immediately got injured and written out again. And it gives more and more fuel to the people that are shitting on the Hardys, who aren't correct, but are given little things to nibble on with their bad faith arguments. So that's not great. I'm really, really hoping that the babyfaces win this, because the system needs to shut down, and I hate myself for making that pun, but that's the best I can do at the moment. Now, we're going to talk about the main event in a second, but let's talk about the highlight, the scissor reel of Emergence, and it's the return of Ultimate X. Great story here. Mike Bailey wanting to defend his X Division Championship, going to Santino and saying, look, just because I'm the defending champion doesn't mean I shouldn't have to qualify to get into the match. It's Ultimate X. Everybody should have to qualify. So he defended his championship in a triple threat match that was a qualifier to get into the X Division Ultimate X match for his X Division Championship. They're really overly baby-facing Speedball Mike Bailey, and it works because he plays it off really, really well. And he brings a pretty interesting dynamic and a pretty interesting style to the X Division, which is the division that's made to mix up styles. So let's go through the names on this list, because they all qualified through triple threat matches. Zachary Rentz, Riley Osborne, Jason Hotch, Hammerstone, and Laredo Kid. So, Mike Bailey's the defending champion. Mike Bailey is also in a tag team with Trent Seven, and that may or may not factor into things. Zachary Wentz is an interesting one because he's obviously going to have his buddy Trey Miguel in his corner. Trey Miguel doesn't have a match on this show, but also they've just done the reunion and breakup angle with Wes Lee on NXT, and he's going to have a match with Wes Lee at No Mercy 2 days later. So there's two ways they can go with this. Is that if Wes Lee shows up on the pay-per-view, that'll be awesome. A little bit more crossover, whatever. Screws over his buddy. It builds to the match on Sunday. If Zachary Wentz, by hook or by crook, wins the X Division Championship, could we see an X Division Championship match on an NXT pay-per-view? Because that would be a lot of fun. Zachary Wentz defending the X Division Championship on a WWE program would be a wild headline. Would be a wild headline to sell, but you wouldn't have the time to talk it up before Sunday, which is a weird thing, and it's a thing that I'm sure WWE would want to do. I mean, they'd go wild about it on social media. If you wanted to do a situation where Zachary Wentz wins the championship, maybe with the help of Trey Miguel, because an X Division Championship match in an Ultimate X scenario is no DQ. He could get help from his buddy Trey if they wanted to, and he wins. And after the fact, Wes Lee says, hey, we're fighting on Sunday. I bet you don't have the balls to put that X Division Championship on the line. That would be cool, because what do they do then? Do they bring in one or two TNA commentators for that? Do you get Matthew Raywalt and Tom Hannafin on commentary for that match at the NXT venue? Do they have to bring in a TNA referee if a TNA championship is on the line? All those are little tiny aesthetic things that don't change the match, but it changes enough, and it builds this working atmosphere that the two companies have that a lot of people seem to be mad about, and I don't know why. Oh, because it's better than whatever you're watching. Oh yeah, speaking of which, we've also got Riley Osborne, who's representing Chase U and also representing NXT in the match as well, because he won a qualifying match. Dante Chen was also in a qualifying match for this and didn't make it through. Now, I would have said this is just a random throwaway crossover, if not for the fact that 2 weeks ago on NXT, the former tag team champions of Nathan Frazier and Axiom wanted another shot at Chase U, who now have the titles, Chase U being represented by Andre Chase and Duke Hudson, but Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne said, okay, if you want a good title match with them, then you got to go through us first. Now, they lost. The Duke Hudson and Riley Osborne team lost, but Riley Osborne shone like a motherfucker in that match, and I'm starting to think that specifically in a cruiserweight or an X Division type scenario, Riley Osborne is a pretty good little firecracker of a wrestler, hidden within a comedy gimmick in Chase U, hidden on NXT. So, could be somebody to watch. And with Chase U having tag gold, it would be another cool little, hey, our group is getting more gold, if Riley Osborne were the one to potentially bring the TNA X Division Championship to NXT for a bit, because then he could defend that X Division Championship against guys like Wes Lee, against guys like Axiom, against guys like Nathan Frazier, against guys like what's his name, Javon Evans. The other part of that too is you could have people from TNA come over to NXT trying to win that TNA championship back, be the one to bring the title home, as the cliche would go. I don't think they're going to go in that direction. I think there is a wide open door for them to do something cool like that. Also, the Chase U music hitting at a TNA show was already awesome once. It'll be awesome again. The other person in the match is Jason Hotch, who I'm sorry to say I really don't have much to say about. He's a tag team guy. He's a mid-card tag team guy, and he's very good, but they are what their name says. They're just a couple of good hands. Hammerstone is in there. Hammerstone, I think, serves a very unique purpose in this match, because they've always said the X Division is not a cruiserweight division. It's not about weight limits, it's about no limits, and they've always thrown somebody in there to prove it. They've thrown Josh Alexander in there. Back in the day, they threw in people like Rhino, people like Samoa Joe. They have to throw in somebody like Hammerstone to say, look, don't call us a cruiserweight division. Look at that guy. He's not a cruiserweight. Also, because he's the big guy in there with a bunch of cruiserweights, he's going to chuck them all around like empty tracksuits, if I can borrow an Adam Nicholas expression. And him with the X Division Championship would be terrifying. Not going to lie. The long run that Josh Alexander had with the X Division Championship was cool because he brought the mat game, amateur wrestling, ground game, submission game to the X Division and took it. He didn't completely remove the high flying element of it, but he brought in that really, really technical element. We've had other people that have been brawlers. I think like Homicide was the X Division champion like way back in the day. You put in a big, massive powerhouse like Hammerstone, maybe it becomes like that for a while. I've been saying for a while on Monday Night Raw, with Braun Breaker being the Intercontinental Championship, that championship needs to be the big meaty men slapping man meat championship for a little while. Why you see Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed, Ivar, Otis, maybe Omos when he comes back. All these big guys make it a big guy division for a little while. Hammerstone getting the X Division Championship, you might get Hammerstone versus Khan versus, I don't know, PCO versus maybe, Murder Hawk Monster comes over from AEW if they still have any kind of working relationship at all. Maybe you bring somebody over like an Oba Femi and have a champion versus champion match. Oba Femi versus Hammerstone for the X Division Championship would be mad. Although it wouldn't be title versus title because Tony D is going to win the championship at No Mercy. But that's another story for another day. And then you got Laredo Kid, who, I'm sorry, is a great luchador there to do great lucha things, if I can steal an expression. It really comes down to, is Mike Bailey going to retain, or do they do some funky storyline stuff with Zachary Wentz? I think that's it. Riley Osborne, like I say, it would be fun, but that's what it would be. It would be fun. Jason Hotch is there to make up the numbers. Hammerstone is to prove that it's not a cruiserweight division, and Laredo Kid is there to add some awesome lucha things. Let me know down in the box below, or hit me up on X at Spaz Phoenix, and let me know specifically, who do you want to win the Ultimate X, and do you want it to be a TNA crossover person? Now, I've already mentioned that there's potential for 2 different crossovers in the Ultimate X match. Mentioned the fact that Joe Hendry, who's in that big 8-man tag, has a title match on Sunday. So there's lots of talk about crossover. Not a whole lot of title matches on this show tonight. In fact, there's only the X Division Championship match and the match I'm about to talk about. And that's Nick Nemeth versus Josh Alexander, round 2, or round 2.5, I guess. They were both in the 6-man, but that doesn't count as them going at each other. So I'll call that a half. I'll call the match they had on TNA on Impact as a half, because that was a draw. Nick Nemeth, former Dolph Ziggler, versus Josh Alexander in a 60-minute Iron Man match. Are you fucking kidding me, guys? I'd love to say I don't care who wins. I love the fact that Dolph Ziggler is getting the recognition in TNA that he never got in WWE. I want that to continue. I think he's doing good for the company, and I think being put in this spot and getting this recognition is doing a lot of well overdue good things for him as well. I do legitimately think that's a two-way street, and Josh Alexander is like the guy in TNA. He deserves to be the guy in TNA. The way that we would look at TNA back in the day and look at AJ Styles and say, oh, okay, we've got John Cena, who's the guy, whether he's champion or not. AJ Styles in TNA is the guy, whether he's got a title or not. Josh Alexander has kind of taken over that spot. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. Yes, Destiny, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. Josh Alexander doesn't need to win this match, but he needs to bring everything he has to the table, because this match is... I'm going to be careful with my words here. This match is a proving ground match for Nick Nemeth. Not that he has something to prove, but a match to go into saying and acting and portraying a guy that has something to prove. This is the guy that wants to say, look at what I do on Friday. This is what I wanted to do for years and years and years. Watch me do it. This is going to be athletic as hell. I really hope there's not any nonsense involved. We've got Josh Alexander turning heel, which I wasn't sure about when it happened in the 6-man match there, because I really like Josh Alexander and the crowd is really behind him. I've been in 2 separate companies. I've sat in audiences of 2 separate companies that loved Josh Alexander. Like I say, he was the guy. So for him to do the vicious heel turn thing when it happened in front of my face, I was like, nah, he just kicked Joe Hendry in the dick. Maybe he's going to show up and fuck over Joe Hendry on Sunday at the NXT show, and Ethan Page, his former tag team partner, gets to successfully defend his championship because of Josh Alexander. That's a thing that we could be doing along the way. I don't want to stray into this thing where everything on TNA affects NXT and everything on NXT affects TNA, but it is kind of fun that just about every match, just about every encounter has something that could be there. Does All Ego Ethan Page come in and screw over Joe Hendry and the 6-person tag and the system, and All Ego Ethan Page is an honorary member of the system for a night? Does Roxanne Perez come in and renew her rivalry with Jordan Grace? Does somebody else come in and just fuck with Ash by Elegance because she's a former WWE person? I don't know. Who does one of Axiom or Nathan Frazier come in and fuck over Riley Osborne in the Ultimate X match because that's how bad they want to get their tag team titles back on the Sunday? Maybe. I'm sure there's somebody in NXT that remembers what it was like to fight with Kushida. That could happen. That being said, and even ignoring the fact that Nick Nemeth is former WWE guy Dolph Ziggler, this is the one match out of every match on this card where I'm like, leave it alone, let it be a match. Don't have anybody come in and fuck with Josh Alexander. Don't have anybody come in and fuck with Nick Nemeth. All that kind of stuff. This match is going to be fantastic. And as much as I want Nick Nemeth to win, it doesn't matter who wins. When the bell rings and this match starts, when the bell rings and this match ends, the winner is the fans. And yes, that is an old, tired, overused cliche, but in this case, it's absolutely, absolutely true. So, running down my predictions, once again, Frankie Kazarian's going to beat Kushida. Ultimate X match, I'm going with either Mike Bailey or Zachary Wentz with a sympathetic nod towards Riley Osborne for something that's definitely not going to happen. Going to go with Eric Young over Steve Maclin. Going to go with Team Jordan Grace because it's got Jordan Grace on it. The babyfaces are going to beat the system, and Nick Nemeth is going to retain and prove a lot of people wrong in that 60-minute Iron Man match with Josh Alexander. Now, as I say, over the course of this week, I'm going to be recording previews for Bash in Berlin. I'm going to be recording previews for NXT No Mercy as well. Don't know right now how the chips are going to fall, where I'm going to have Jake with me, where it's going to be just me. Either way, I'm kind of putting Bash in Berlin on the shelf over here right now. We got an NXT pay-per-view on the Sunday. We got a TNA pay-per-view on the Friday. Bound for Glory weekend, I believe, is the same weekend as Halloween Havoc. So we're going to have this exact same scenario again. How much crossover is there going to be? Where do you think the crossover is going to be? Do you want there to be a crossover that we haven't even seen hint of yet is another cool thing? And what other surprises? Because TNA shows usually have about 1 or 2 surprises per show. Anyway, so what do you think the surprises are going to be? What do you think the crossovers are going to be? Are you looking forward to the show? Are you watching the show? Or are you just hearing me ramble about it? How much do you think this show is going to affect No Mercy, vice versa, and all that kind of stuff? In both scenarios, the TNA show comes first, so if there's going to be any one bleeding over into the other, it has to start on the TNA show, which in and of itself brings more interest to TNA, which I'm happy to see, because TNA's killing it right now, NXT's killing it right now, WWE's killing it right now, and AEW is also there. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I am tagging out.